Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Our guest this week is someone who did something I think many people have thought of doing, but few of them have actually managed to follow through on it and actually do it. When her mother-in-law died, and then she began to give signs of her survival of death, our guest today decided to learn a whole lot more about what actually happens after death, and then she wrote a book about it. My dear friends, one thing that I've not talked about much here, but our guest today has gotten me thinking about it, is the fact that all of us are living in the midst of death all the time as we live our lives, because we've got old people, we've got sick people in our lives, we've got friends who have old people and sick people in our lives. Death is happening all around us. And yes, I'm using the death word. Normally I say transition. It's the same thing because nobody ever actually dies. It's just, it's all, but it's happening all around us. And we should be sharing casual, supportive discussions about it all the time. And as our guest does with those that she interacts with now, it should be just a natural thing for us, but it always feels so awkward. I should be doing it, frankly, much more than I actually do in my own life. And I've never really talked about my life outside the afterlife community to you, which I should be doing because every week you're part of my life. And for my whole adult life, I've been living a dual life. And I still do live that dual life even to this day. I'm a practicing attorney, a business attorney. I decided while I was still in law school that I'd never practice courtroom law. Boy, it just took me one moot court appearance, and that was it. I said, I'll do anything else. I'll empty trash cans. I'm never going to be a lawyer in a courtroom. So instead, for 50 years, I've been a counselor to the owners of closely held and mostly family businesses. I enjoy this work so much, and I love my clients so much that while I've reduced my workload now that I'm retirement age, I never intend to retire. But the fact that I still work and I travel to see clients in Massachusetts, even though we now live in Texas, is kind of a commute, I have to say. That's a big reason why years ago I stopped. I did try for a while to do afterlife speaking engagements, but I stopped doing it. I mean, something has to give when you're basically living a dual life. But reading this nifty book that is the topic of our conversation today, called Your Soul Focus, by a brand new afterlife expert named Annette Marinaccio, who is a certified public accountant and an accomplished healthcare executive, has made me realize how far things have come in the 14 years since I finally had to come out to my legal clients about the double life I had been leading for my entire legal career. I mean, I had been wearing my three-piece suits effectively and going around and being a serious lawyer during all that time. And they never knew that I had been researching the afterlife. I had been I had been going to conferences. I had been doing all that stuff. They never knew. And finally, one day I was about to publish The Fun of Dying, and I had to come out to all those people. I was sure I was going to get fired. I was sure my career was over, but I finally had to be true to who I was. But this was all 14 years ago. This was woo-woo. I mean, it was really woo-woo. And what happened was that about half of them loved the idea. I mean, they still love the idea. They've bought all my books. They ask me questions. It's great. But the other half, well, they sort of cleared their throats. They said something like, well, okay, well, now back to this contract provision we were talking about. And they never have wanted to know anything about it, but none of them fired me. So it was okay. It's important that all of us bring this information into our daily lives and we start to talk about it and think about it with those we work with. It's no longer woo-woo, everybody. This is real. This is part of our lives. So I especially want to talk about this book. Your Soul Focus is a spiritual book, but as our guest today says, it's written in a simple and practical way. That's what it is. This is a book by an accountant. I'm an attorney. She has just started as an afterlife expert, but she is a sincere afterlife expert. She doesn't have my depth of knowledge yet, but she could get it because she's touching all the bases already. And I think this is a book a great many people ought to read, but not only for your own edification, but because she already knows more about how to talk to people about this stuff than I do. Because my instinct, frankly, when people say, gee, their grandpa's dying or something, is, yay for grandpa, I'm so excited for, but that's not the right way to approach people, as Annette Marinaccio will tell you, not the right way to say it. And I've learned that because people don't like it when I say yay for grandpa. So without further ado, I'm just going to say, welcome, Annette. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Roberta. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here and to be your guest. So thank you for that.
But seriously, you got me thinking about this all in a much deeper way, because I really haven't integrated the two parts of my life as I should have. And you really have. I mean, you're sort of always looking for ways to get people talking about this stuff and thinking about this stuff. And how can I help you with this? I think that's wonderful.
Well, once I really understood how the universe works to a larger degree, thanks to my mother and my spirit guides and my deceased relatives on the other side, I almost took it on like a responsibility, because I sincerely feel that the more of us who understand the afterlife and discuss it openly in a more mainstream manner, the better off we are, the better off the universe is. So I really took it on almost to some extent like a responsibility. But you're absolutely right. There are two distinct aspects of what I would call my life also. I'm a CPA and a healthcare executive, and I also love what I do. I love the content of my work. I love who I work with. I just love everything about it. And there are plenty of opportunities to be kind and spiritual in the workday, even if you're a business person like me, like an accountant. So I always operate in that realm. But when my mother-in-law died, which was 2006, and she started showing me that she was still around, she's still, very much alive. I was shocked. And again, it's not so much that I was skeptical, but I had not really thought about it too much. I was very busy, living my life, my family, my, community and my job. And, I did not really think about what are we here for and what happens after we die. I just hadn't thought about that. So, once my mother-in-law started, showing me from the other side that she was very much still a part of my life, that took me quite some time to digest. And I then spent 4 years researching, as you mentioned, all things metaphysical, all things afterlife. And once I got very involved in that, I could see that there is so much literature. There are so many people who live their life totally in the metaphysical realm. So unlike you and me, where we're in the business area of things, and we also have this afterlife interest, these people, many people, they make their living on metaphysical topics. And so, yes, once I really understood that there's an entire industry, an entire world that lives in this day to day, I almost felt a responsibility to sort of bring my two worlds together, because I knew that the people in my CPA healthcare executive world, they're all human beings like all of us. And it in many cases, like you said, maybe 50%, I probably had a higher percentage, 50%, I would say maybe 70% of the time, the information that I had learned distinctly benefited who I was speaking to. And then maybe 30% of the time, it would be that clearing of the throat, like, okay, let's get back to this problem, this Excel spreadsheet. And that's fine. Everybody, you have to meet people where they are. And I would just back down. But I did know that because I don't think it's my place to convince somebody that there's an afterlife. That's up to them. But all I want to do is present what I know. And what you find when you do that is there are so many people that have experiences of their own. So like when I'm talking about, at one point I was speaking to a healthcare executive. This must have been about 2007, 2008, when I was first starting to really realize that we go on. And I mentioned it to this healthcare executive who I worked with, for a decade. And he said, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody. When I went to visit, I'm sure I'm getting the people mixed up here, but when I went to visit my mother in the hospital, my wife and I parked the car and we saw the image of my deceased father pass in front of the car. And she and I both looked at each other and said, did you see that? And we both saw it. And I'm like, wow, could you imagine this spirit on the other side making himself known to two lay people at the same time? It's amazing what they're doing on the other side. They're doing all kinds of calisthenics to get us to recognize that they're still here. But the one thing that I really wanted to understand was, if we go on, why are we here? What is everyone doing here? What is the purpose? And so even though there are many threads of metaphysical knowledge that one can, or paths that one can go down to learn, I decided that was the path I wanted to understand. Why are we here? And it took me about 4 years to wrap my head around it as best I could. And everything, because I'm an accountant, everything needed to make absolute sense. And because I'm an accountant, I had to take it very slowly and digest it one step at a time. And then after about 4 years, I sort of felt done. I felt like, something, I understand what we're about. I can see when the universe needs me to activate, or I like to say when the universe is using me. It was just a different knowledge. And I was always kind before, so I still lived life in a kind way. And I sort of just left it like that. And as people needed something that I had learned, I mustered the courage, because it does take courage when you're, in the business world. I mustered the courage to tell them what I had learned in case it helped. And in some cases it doesn't, but in most cases it does. And after about 4 years of being placed in the path of people who really appreciated my knowledge, and were thanking me for sort of life-changing information, I was like, something, I think I have to put this in a book. I think I have to make a nice, simple, easy to read book so that anybody can walk through what I walked through and say, oh, I can see I can see why she thinks there's an afterlife. And all that she's learned is in this book, and it all pertains to me. So that, I intentionally titled it Your Soul Focus, not My Soul Focus, because yes, although the book walks through my experiences, I only included the amount of experiences I needed to get my point across, to get to the parts that pertain to everyone, because I wanted everyone to walk away with just a different set of knowledge. And so that was my objective. My mother-in-law started me on the path, and my girlfriend, after I wrote the book, said, geez, your mother-in-law must have been such a strong person. And I said, she was strong. I don't know that she was so much stronger than all the rest of us. And then my girlfriend said, well, I think it's you, the two of you must have had an unbelievably close relationship. And I said, we absolutely did. I loved my mother-in-law. I know she loved me. But I don't know that it was so much closer than everybody else's. And then she said to me, well, why did she pick you to come through to explain all this to? And I was like, I don't know. And then about an hour later, my girlfriend came over to me and she goes, I know why. And I said, why? And she said, because she knew you'd write the book. And I was like, that's true. It's exactly what you said, Roberta. And everybody has these experiences, but not everybody, other than maybe an accountant, is going to sit and digest and dissect and digest and dissect and research and analyze to the point that it makes sense and then put a sensible book out on it. So that's why I think I understand now my mother-in-law and I had a soul pact, and I was meant to,
It's the fact that you are for someone who'd write the book, but it's also the fact that because you are a professional, people believe it when they hear this just in your personal life, and the fact that when they read a book and it's from someone with your kind of profession, people believe this information, because that happens in my life as well, in my personal life. When I say this, and when I used to get, because I used to go from Unity Church to Unity Church and give talks all the time. I must have given talks in 50 Unity churches. For years, I was giving talks about the afterlife. Say from 2010 to 2016 or 2017, I gave so many talks, but they'd take it from an attorney. You did this research. Well, attorneys are researchers. Attorneys, take life seriously. They do serious things. And so people would believe it.
That's true.
That's why they took it from you more seriously than they would take it from you if you had been a mom who happened to do this.
That's true. I think, it's interesting because my profession is sort of bound by, certified public accountants are bound by a code of ethics.
Right. And so are lawyers. Right.
Right. And so that just lends credibility to what I went through. It's like, when you hear about it from somebody who is entrenched in the metaphysical world, who is very, I'll say, woo-woo, you sort of take it with a grain of salt, like, well, it applies to them, but they have a different, personality about it or whatever, but it wouldn't apply to me. But when an accountant or a lawyer says it, it sort of makes you pause and say, they have their own livelihood. There's no reason for them to make this up. And so maybe it's really true.
I would even have people say it to me, that they came, I came this evening because you're a lawyer. You would, I don't think you would be saying these things if you really did not believe it was true. You're putting your reputation on the line. I mean, that was the kind of things people were saying these things to me all the time. Now, I have to say to you, I also think that coming out with this kind of information in the year 2023 is very different from coming out with this kind of information in the year 2010. The times are changing rapidly, and I love seeing that. Mm-hmm. The attitude of the world, of the United States especially, but even of the world at large, toward this information is far different. It is not woo-woo anymore. It really is much more mainstream.
That's true.
Don't you feel that way? Don't you see that?
Absolutely. And, to some extent, I do credit the media with that, because there are a lot of television writers out there and producers who have allowed this kind of topic to be on television shows, and then even on in movies, The Heaven is Real and things like that. And then you've got a lot of people putting out books and things like that. So I think even the mediums who, some people may say do a disservice to other mediums, because when the medium produces a show, whether it's a YouTube show or a Netflix or a television show, there's a lot left on the cutting room floor. So to make it like something very interesting,
Yes.
you're seeing hit after hit after hit, and you're not seeing the misses. And then when you go to a medium in real life, there may be 15 or 20% of the time there are misses. And so
Right.
some people may say that does a disservice to the mediums, but at the end of the day, it's publicizing to the general public a skill set that was not publicized 10 years ago. So it was not really talked about, let alone on media outlets. So I think the media, the advent of computers, the internet has really accelerated that. And then you add to it the kind of introspective pandemic we all went through with COVID, that really rocks people to their core and shakes their day-to-day routine and reality. It allowed for people to do soul searching. So I think you're absolutely right. It's a little bit more mainstream now, certainly, than it was a decade ago.
So all very, I think all very hopeful. But what I liked about your book was that I think you have a very good touch from the stories you told about the interactions you had with people. I think you have a very deft touch with people in how you let them take the lead in what they were ready to hear and in how they were ready to be helped. As opposed to me, I think I tend to be kind of overwhelming to people in how I want to help them. I think you gave, this is what I'm suggesting to people about this book, and I really think this is a good book for people to read who are interested in number one, in being reassured yourselves, because I thought some of the stories in it were great. If you're uneasy or unsure about the afterlife, I think that this book is a good one for you to read. But your soul focus also is a way to, if you might encounter people in your daily life too that you would like to be able to help with their own, if they have people who are dying or very sick in their own life, this is a great book to sort of give you a pattern for how you might be able to help people, because Annette has a very good touch with that.
Thank you. I think part of it,
with much more depth. I think that you're very adept at that. Give us an example. For example, tell some of those stories, or a story or two about someone says, "Gee, my father is sick." So how did you handle that?
So, I mean, you've touched on a lot of points. I think one of the reasons that I've been able to convey things the way I have conveyed them is because a little bit because of my profession, not the CPA part of it, but I've been in positions of leadership for quite some time. So I'm constantly training and orienting and educating staff. And so I'm always trying to think of different ways to get a point across to someone so that they can appreciate what their job entails. And so I've just really applied that. My skill set at work is that I can take a very elusive topic and make it understandable. That's my skill set at work. Like what I do is I manage a physician compensation and contracting department. It's so nuanced. It's full of regulations, and it's so difficult to get your head around. And I've gotten my head around it, and I am constantly conveying different aspects of it. And so I just did the same thing with the afterlife. I learned everything I could about it, and then I simplified it so that people can, appreciate it on a day-to-day basis. But you're right. The beginning part of the book is really about me understanding just that there is an afterlife. And that was a big thing for me because I didn't really think about it before that. So it took me quite some time to accept that. But after I accepted it, I did a lot of research and a lot of experimentation. And so one of the stories that everybody could just sort of, work with today, just today, is that the afterlife, the souls that have left us are literally right outside our parameter, what we can see. They're an energy level right outside of us. And the way that you can test it, which I didn't understand you could test it, but you could test, is just ask your loved one, meditate on it, and ask for something specific. That's it. Just ask for something specific. So I'll give an example. I played around when I was learning this initially. I played around with it a lot because I wanted to get that reassurance that they were still there. But now I know they're there. I know they're really right there. So I use the snow globe analogy first so you can see how I visualize them. The snow globe analogy is basically that you walk out on your porch on a snowy day. So everything is covered in beautiful white snow, the mailbox, the trees, and nobody's stepped foot on it yet. So as far as your eye can see, there's just beautiful untouched snow, and you're standing out there and it's an absolute beautiful scene. And then if you picture at the very edge of what you can see, an acrylic dome is over all of you. So, the entire landscape. So you're in a snow globe, and your loved ones are really right on the other side of that snow globe. They see everything we do. They see our day to day. So that snow globe analogy is a good way to think of how they're there. They are right there. So when I was initially understanding this, I was experimenting with asking my mother-in-law, my uncle, all of them for specific signs. But I'll give you a very recent one that I asked just about, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Usually if you ask for a specific sign and meditate on it, they will typically show it to you within about 2 weeks. I mean, it's actually like a science. And if they're not showing it to you, it's going to be one of pretty much two reasons. Number one, they really are showing it to you, but you didn't pick up that they're showing it to you because maybe you're thinking of it in a different way than they're showing it to you. So in other words, maybe you're thinking of, I'm making this up, you're thinking of a telephone and instead they're showing you the word telephone, So it's either that or they've determined that it will interfere with your life's path. If you get too preoccupied with the other side, then you're not going to finish your purpose here. So if they feel that you're getting too distracted with your soul's purpose here and your path, they're not going to give in to showing you these signs. But having said that, the majority of time, they're going to be able to show you the signs. So just a couple of weeks ago, I was reminded of, the fact that they can show me signs. So I decided both of my parents died 2 weeks apart a year ago. Both of them. They were in-home hospice, my sister and I caring for them. Very, very, very intense. So now we're at the 1 year mark. So I decided, okay, I'm going to have my mother, my father, and my mother-in-law each show me something. So 2 weeks ago, I asked for my mother to show me a peacock, my father to show me a white swan, and my mother-in-law to show me a monarch butterfly. So those were my three signs. I meditated on them. Within a day, my father showed me the swan. I basically was watching a show, and there was an actor. It was an old show, and there was an actor on it, and he starts talking about a white swan. And so I'm like, oh, there's my white swan. It wasn't a swan. I didn't see the swan. I heard the actor saying what it was a white swan. So I knew that was my father. About 3 days after that, my cousin posts a picture of it's sort of going around the internet now, maybe a little baby peacock, a little blue baby peacock. And she said, isn't this thing the cutest? And it comes up on my scroll and I'm like, oh, that's my mom. And then about 3 or 4 days after that, I'm looking at, I signed up to be a vendor for my books at a psychic fair, and they sent me their paperwork, and the paperwork had a monarch butterfly on top of it. And so I was like, oh, that's my mother-in-law. So the things that people can do right now is meditate on the sign you want from your loved one. And you know something, you're going to get it. So
Amazing. Isn't that wonderful?
it's wonderful.
I
It's
love it.
wonderful. I had a woman who read my book. She was in the middle of the country, and she said, I have to thank you, which was just so rewarding with the book. Like, I've had so many people thank
Don't
me.
you love it?
I
Oh,
love it.
yeah.
I love it. Accountants don't usually get that kind of praise. Like, oh, you changed my life. So
I know, exactly. Lawyers either. Well,
feedback,
I do sometimes. Yeah.
you know, like a doctor or a nurse, you're going to get that kind of feedback, but
Right.
not an accountant. So yeah, I love that. But at any rate, she said to me that her brother had died when she was younger, like in her teens, and she has a 10-year-old daughter now. And after reading my book, she told the 10-year-old daughter, and the daughter had never met the brother, let's ask Uncle Jack to give us something specific. What should we ask him for? And so the little girl, the 10-year-old, said, I'd like to see Finn the cat, Finn. So her mother said, Finn the cat, who is that? And she said, well, last summer, while Grandma was babysitting me here, a cat came in the backyard, and it let us pet it, and it had the chain on, and Grandma read that his name was Finn. And so the woman who had read my book, the mother, said, okay, that's probably too specific for Uncle Jack, but what color was Finn? And the little girl said orange. And so she said, why don't we just ask Uncle Jack to send us an orange cat? And so they meditated on it. They prayed to Uncle Jack to send an orange cat. And then 2 days later, the mother is putting out the garbage, and she hears a little meow behind the garbage, and she moves the garbage out, and she sees this orange cat. She's so excited. She runs inside, gets her 10-year-old daughter. The daughter comes out. They coax the cat out from behind the garbage can, and they see actually that it's Finn the cat. It's got the chain on it. So it wasn't even just an orange cat. It was Finn the cat.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just a great story.
Yeah.
But just shows, and this woman was so impressed that she was able to like read my book and then have her deceased brother come through for her daughter. I mean, she's never even, you know. So yeah, so that's something that's really cool, that if people want, you know, reassurance, it's sort of an easy thing to do.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, yes, it's really great. And
People don't understand how many times that our loved ones will give us signs, but it's even better if you give them a focus on the kind of sign to give.
yes,
Because otherwise they're just trying to give us, you know, pennies, dimes, whatever they can that they hope you'll notice, but they don't know what you're looking for.
right.
So this is a great idea.
Right.
Tell them what you're looking for. It's even better.
Right. And then again, like I'd say, although they will show you most of the time, I like to say the out, because I don't want people to say, oh, I didn't get it, so maybe my loved one doesn't love me. It's not that. Your loved one loves you and is absolutely right there, like not far, right there. But at the end of the day, if they feel it's going to interfere with your path or your journey, souls are very, very polite. They're not going to give you something that's going to interfere with your purpose. And so my analogy with that is, because everybody can relate to this, is we've all seen children melt down. So I'm making this story up, but let's say your son is 3 years old, or you see a child who's 3 years old, and he's desperately begging for a candy bar for breakfast, and he's crying and screaming, and you're like, I'm not going to give in and give him a candy bar for breakfast. And basically he's melting down, and you as his parent or his guardian or even just a bystander would look at this child melting down over the candy bar, and you would think to yourself, you know, I feel badly, right? You have empathy. I feel badly that they're this upset about it, but you have a different perception. You know, as an adult, the candy bar means nothing. It means nothing. He might have a candy bar after lunch. He'll probably have 1,000 candy bars his whole life. He's going to grow up. He's going to fall in love. He's going to fall out of love. He may have kids one day. He's going to get a job, hopefully. The candy bar means nothing.
Right.
the other side is looking at us in the same way.
Right, exactly.
Desperately wanting signs from them or wanting
Right,
to go back to the
right,
way we
right.
were with them. They have a different perception, and their perception is, I feel badly that you miss me this much, but it really is not that big a deal.
Right.
It's
Perfectly said.
right.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's
Perfectly
what I've
said.
been able to do. I've sort of have all these little analogies that help people understand what I've learned so that the hope is so that people feel better and live a more fulfilled life here, understanding that they're really never alone. You know, you feel like you're alone, but you're really never alone. They're there trying to help us any way they can.
One of the things I found so impressive about your book was how much you had learned in such a short time. I mean, I've spent 50 plus years doing this research, and you just zapped right through it and put it all together and drew all the right conclusions. So you did a good job. You really
Thank
did.
you. Thank you so much. In that 4 years, I was, I dare say obsessed, but
Right, you were.
but all my discretionary time, all of it was spent on the afterlife. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't understand how could my mother-in-law still be here? And if she's still here, like what the heck is going on? So I read, I can't even believe I wrote a book because I don't even like to read books that much. I'm a numbers person, so I'm not like
Yeah.
words and things like that. I love Excel spreadsheets and, that kind of thing. So I don't like to even read that much except for like articles. But during that 4 years, I read everything I could get my hands on, articles, books. I talked to hundreds of people because once you start talking to people and this one has a story and that one has a story and this one, you're like, wait a minute, you guys all know this already? Like you all know
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
getting signs? Like it's common knowledge. And
It is in
and
a whole class of people. It's common knowledge, but you
common
put the
knowledge.
thing is, it's a whole new world. So you put it together correctly. That's hard to do. You really did a good job of research, I have to say. It's a
Thank
gift.
you.
It's a very,
Thank
very good big gift.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It was interesting because I knew what I had would help people. And of course, what I put in the book was just a fraction of what I went through because, you don't need it all. I just needed to put in the book what needed to be in there to get the points across. But I was daunted. The possibility of writing a book was daunting to me because I'm not a writer and I don't even like reading that much. So, but what's interesting is in January of 2020, having nothing to do with COVID, I had been haunted for the last 2 or 3 years thinking, I've got to get this into some digestible format. It just would be so helpful to people. So I just knew that I wanted to do it, but hadn't gotten around to it. And then January of 2020, the way the algorithms work, I'm like sitting on my couch and an interview comes up with Justin Bieber, of all people, like this nice young singer kind of person. And I'm like, if I'm being kind to myself, a middle-aged woman. But he comes up on my feed and, and he basically says that he's turned his life around. He was so young even at the time, but he said he turned his life around when he started realizing that his focus should be on helping others and caring for others and other people and not himself. And that resonated with me because I knew that if I could get this book out, it would help people. And so I was just like, I have to think of the good it will do and not focus on the hassle it is for me to write it, So that's what I focused on. And after I finally was done, was done with it and got it out there, like maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks after I put it out there, the power of social media, a woman from Seattle, Washington, or the other side of the country, I'm in New York, emailed me and she said, I just want to thank you for your book. My son died 3 years ago. He was 23 years old, and I've been struggling with it. And I've never thought of his death in the way that you portrayed death. And so I want to thank you because you've helped me a lot. And I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm done. I helped somebody.
Isn't that the truth. Each time you get one of those emails, you say, now I know why I was born.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. People who write those emails don't understand that each time you receive one of those emails, now you know why you were born. Now you know why you wrote the book. Now you know why. I've had that feeling every single day. Now I know why.
Right.
That's the gift that people give us. Right
Yes.
back again. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, Annette, this has been so much fun. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
We've come to the end of our time. I wish we could do this. We'll do this again because
Sure.
I would like to
Sure.
get
Anytime.
more exposure for your book.
Thank
Your
you.
Soul Focus is a very good book. If you are unsure about whether you survive death, you definitely should read this book because it's a short course, and yes, of course you do. But also, I think if you are working with or a part of a situation where you're likely to be in a position to counsel people, I think this is a very good short course on how to do that right, because I certainly haven't known how to do it right. And she educated me about that as well.
Thank you.
Annette Marinaccio, she's very good at these things, I have to say. Thank you so much, Annette, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Roberta. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll have her back again, I must say, everybody. So unfortunately, however, we've come to the end of our time. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so glad you could be here with us. And please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you understand that, when you really get it, it changes everything in your life for the better. And next week, our guest will be our wonderful friend, Peter Wright. He's going to be with us for the 16th time. He's just like a habit here. Peter is a favorite because he talks about some things that many of us hate to think about. I certainly do. And he makes them not scary. And next week, we're going to be talking about something that I really don't like to talk about. He's going to talk about possession by negative entities. He tells me that unfortunately, this is becoming more and more common, but he has methods for removing them that are easy. And he's going to talk about those, and he's going to give us some examples and tell us some stories. And as you know, whenever Peter is here, he makes all these scary things easy and fun, and he's going to tell us happy stories, and you aren't going to want to miss this. I certainly don't want to miss it. Please join us. And this week, our guest has been Annette Marinaccio. She is a healthcare executive and a CPA, and she's obviously another person who makes these things not scary. When her mother-in-law transitioned and began to communicate with the family, and especially with Annette, Annette had to find out what was going on, and she didn't believe in anything with regard to the afterlife. She was a numbers, as she says, she was a numbers person. But she did the research, and I don't believe she became such an expert in just 4 years, but she did. She wrote a book called Your Soul Focus. When I talk about Craig Hogan and me, that I tell people the difference is Craig knows everything I know, but he does it with footnotes. Well, she doesn't. She, like me, does not use footnotes. She wrote a very simple, straightforward book. You can read it. I read it basically in a long morning, and yet I got it all. And she says it's a spiritual book that's written in a practical way. Amen to that. It's a very useful book. And if you need to know these things, you got them right here. But I think it's even more important if you're likely to encounter people in your life that need this information, and you feel you're in a position to help them. I think this is a book for people who are helpers, because she'll teach you how to help people in a graceful way, which I've never been able to do. That's one thing that's a shortcoming for me, but Annette, frankly, is helping me to learn how to do that. She treats death the way she treats taxes, probably. It has to happen, and she holds people's hands through it and focuses on the happier lives for both you and your mom that are beyond the other side of it. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. It's a positive read. It's just the facts, but they're positive kind of facts. I think it's a wonderful book, to tell you the truth, and I really recommend it to everybody. And now, of course, it's time once again to mention that Seek Reality Online is your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. Just go to seekreality.com and start to learn for yourself that your own reality really is eternal. Learn the ultimate truth from Craig Hogan himself. He is the ultimate expert on all things afterlife. And teachingsbyjesus.com is your single resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher who ever lived, Master Jesus, the eternally risen Christ. Now it really is Jesus' turn. It's about time, finally. Christianity, the religion, is dying, so the genuine teachings of Jesus can finally come alive. Teachingsbyjesus.com is the Lord's own entirely religion-free website, made by him, for him, in perfect love for you. And also, as I'm sure you know by now, my own books are Liberating Jesus, My Thomas, The Fun of Dying, The Fun of Staying in Touch, The Fun of Growing Forever, The Fun of Living Together, The Fun of Loving Jesus, Embracing the Christianity that Jesus taught. And for young children, there's The Fun of Meeting Jesus. All these books are available wherever books are sold, also on Amazon.com or on BarnesandNoble.com. And the adult books, except for, of course, the last one, are available as audiobooks. If you want to talk to me about anything at all, you can always contact me through the green contact block on RobertaGrimes.com. And I answer every email if you're sure to give me your correct email address, because otherwise my emails bounce and that makes me sad. You don't want me to be sad, do you? So be sure you give me your right address. And meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all in the whole universe, you are infinitely loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.